activate করে happy to receive everyone here over here in our TDSM cafe. As you all know that here we discuss about technology development, software and more. So in today's session we are having an immense discussion with our very own senior Soham Da, and he's from BTech CSE 4th year. And so everybody gear up and let's start our TDSM. Over to you, Suchita. I think you are muted. Suchita, you are muted.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chaitak. So before kickstarting our session, we are gathered here today to witness the transformation of our very own senior from Kolkata to CERN, Switzerland, and introducing our very own senior Soham Biswas, who is currently working as a technical computing engineer in CERN, Switzerland. He has also cracked GSOC 2020, Winter of Code, etc., and have been an active member of IDC. So over to you, Chaita.
Yeah, so without any further ado, let's welcome Sohamda. Hello, Bhaiya. How are you?
Hello, Chatak and Suchitna. Sorry,
Yes.
Suchitna, right? Suchita, sorry, Suchita.
It's okay.
Thank you for the warm welcome. And another point that a lot of people don't know about is I was also GSOC mentor for 2021. So I have both the experience on both the sides.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, okay. Yeah, it was very, thank you for having me here. Yeah.
Okay, so we are having some good questions for you.
Yeah.
We will be discussing your journey from IM to CERN. There are some good questions, and also at the end we will be having a live discussion with our audience. If they have any question, they can write up in the chat box. We will pick up soon. So Suchita, you go ahead.
Cool. So Somda, firstly, congratulations on your position at CERN, and how are
Thank you
you?
very much.
The very first question. How are you, and how is the weather climate in Europe, Switzerland? How is it?
So far, so good. I mean, initially, like during the winter period, it was quite cold, like -5, 6. Sometimes it would also go to -10, but I was able to survive, let's say, because I mean, in Kolkata, like the minimum you reach is like 16 degrees Celsius, but there was negative. It was a bit hard, but I was able to survive. Let's say. And right now, everything's going good in far. Yeah. So, and I've been like traveling a bit recently. So right now I'm in Berlin right now, just traveling, and so yeah.
All right.
And
So
yeah.
give us a brief introduction about yourself and which field of computer science do you work, or is your field of expertise?
So coming to your first question, I initially started like initially the thing was I was always so okay. So I'm from a CBSE board, right? So the thing is, programming is usually introduced at class 11, for example. I still remember those days where I had to code in C++ and Turbo C, like those blue screens which were very ugly and boring. And I had a hard time there, to be honest. But eventually, I kept trying and trying. And I remember the first time that I wrote a program to just check whether strings are palindrome or not. And during that time, I had this feeling where it was so satisfying that I decided that this is what I will be doing for the rest of my life, let's say. And so that's how my interest in computer science began, let's say, right? And when I joined IEM, for example, I saw that there were a lot of programs from IEM, like you have innovation and different. There was an event called not even like there was a program called Innovare where you had to make like new projects and stuff, and you had to present them. So for that, I wanted to do something different, and I decided to make a drone, let's say. And so I had no idea how to make it, honestly, but I did know that, let's say, I website, and I somehow was able. That's how I basically do stuff. Let's say I don't really choose that this is the domain that I want to be in. I just just go and explore. I just go ahead and explore. That's the thing. So because of that, I don't really have an expertise, or like the things that I do is quite diverse. Let's say it's not that I only do machine learning or I only do a specific domain. So So but if I had to like specify something, I would say Python programming, because Python takes very less time to code. So because of that, I was able to venture into multiple domains without wondering about, I don't know, syntax or any specific complications, let's say. And that's how my journey began, to be honest. And initially, I guess you guys have heard of NPTEL, right? So there was a course on NPTEL about Python programming, and I was able to get a good rank, let's say. And from that, I got an internship at IIT Ropar, and that was like my first, let's say, internship experience during my first year. And in the second year, I crashed GSOC, and in third year, I got into Sun. So that's the overall, let's say, roadmap, or like the overall summary of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a following question. Like you told
Yeah.
that you were into diverse into all the fields.
Yeah.
So you have joined Sun at third year, at your third year. So
Yeah. Yeah.
for students in first and second year, we are very much confused. Like there are
Yeah.
lots of things to do. So what are you? How you prepare for your journey? Like have you make a decision that yeah, I will be totally focused on this, or have you do something else, or something something in everything? So what was
Not.
the
Yeah.
situation?
I got your question. Yeah. So for me, the idea was to try everything out. Okay. So I tried machine learning, I tried web development, I tried app development, I tried everything. Like I tried, like I put my feet in every pond, let's say,
Yeah,
and I eventually realized that I don't really like web development, or I don't really like app development, or okay, maybe I like machine learning a bit more than the others. And that's why I got the idea. Okay, so this is where I should, focus further into. And regarding all those domains, my main tool was Python. And because of that, I got very good at Python. So no matter what problem you have, I can easily solve it with Python. That's the byproduct of it, let's say. So my advice would be to like try out everything, try make a simple project in app development, make a simple project in web development, and then see how you feel about it. Are you excited about it, or do you think, oh, it's too much work, or do you think there's not enough resources in that domain? It's all about trying it out yourself. That's the advice I would give. Let's say.
okay, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
And now moving to the next question. So the next question is how you cracked GSOC. Like what were your preparations, and also what are the suggestions you will give to a student applying GSOC in this year? Like the application
Yeah.
is begin on April 4th, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. So, um, the idea was, so GSOC is something is a byproduct of open source. So if you're really passionate about open source, GSOC shouldn't be your goal, let's say. Okay. That's something I just wanted to put out first. And so secondly, regarding my preparation. So basically, I think in November or in December, I'm not sure, but back in my day, like during my time, by November and December, the organizations have to apply to GSOC for them to get selected for GSOC, let's say. So during that time, you have a brief idea of which organizations will be or might be part of GSOC, let's say the next year, right? So my idea was to go through those organizations or projects and try to understand where I fit better. Okay, so that's how my initial December, like the December and January months went to. Then during March, they announced which projects or which organizations were selected, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I went through all the projects and everything, and I found Python Software Foundation, and they had a sub organization called Fury, and their project was quite interesting for me because it was purely Python based, and they followed like, okay, so initially I tried multiple ones, like there was one called PTV, then I tried Fury, I tried NumPy, and all uh, out of all three of them, I was able to, let's say, contribute the most in Fury. So basically, like before the selection period, or like before the selection deadline, let's say, or the application deadline, I was able to like contribute a lot to that particular project. And within like 2 or 3 months, I was like the top 5 contributor in that project. So it was quite like obvious that I will be selected. So and basically like after that I got selected and I programmed for 3 more months. And yeah, that's how it is. My main advice would be to, so there are basically three sections. Okay, the first part is before the organizations are announced. So during that part, we should try to figure out or try to explore all the projects or all the organizations that were in the previous year. Okay, that's a very good idea, a good thing to do. You might not have to code right away, like you don't have to contribute right away, but it's a good idea to at least scout for different projects or different organizations that are like regular members of GSOC. Let's say, like for example, you have NumPy, which is like been part of GSOC for a very long time. um, PSF, Python Software Foundation, Ardu Pilot, for example. All these projects have been part of GSOC for a very long time. So it's a very high chance that it will also be part of the next program as well. But there have also been exceptions like Anita Borg. That's an organization which has not been selected for the last 2 years, if I'm not wrong, even though that particular org was quite active for its previous years. So it's kind of a bit of a gamble. That's why I don't really recommend you to start coding during that period, but rather try to look out and scout for the projects that might interest you. Okay, so that's the first part. That's the first section. That is before the organizations or the projects are announced, and then comes the second part when they are announced. Okay, and in that period, I would really recommend you to focus on any one of those shortlisted uh, organizations or projects, because if you try to do multiple of them, it will be like you'll have quantity, or like it's quality over quantity, not the other way around. So I would really recommend you to focus on one particular project. and and once you do that, like, so there comes another point, that should I do documentation related stuff or should I actually do code contribution? In my opinion, you should only go for documentation related issues if it's your first time contributing to that project. Let's say you just want to, like, clone the project, try to check out branches, try to see the code base, how it works. During that situation, documentation changes are fine. But eventually you have to do code contributions because documentation changes are very basic. So they don't really, uh, like they don't make much impact in your application, let's say. So it's always a good idea to avoid doing documentation changes later on. Like initially it's fine, but later on you should focus mainly on code base, on code changes, right? So that's the
Yeah,
thing. And yeah,
yeah. So you told about your project Fury. So I
yeah,
know that if I am not wrong, you have also published a paper on that.
yeah.
Is it
I
so?
have.
Yeah. So what are your opinions? Like if you are working on a project, then also have some research on that and write a paper. So is it a good way? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
can you suggest us about that?
yeah, sure. I mean, like in my case, the project that I was working on was a research-based project.
Yeah.
So Fury was basically a library which is used for neuromedical imaging. So let's say you have to 3D visualize the brain or some particular, yeah, usually the brain basically. So for that reason, what happened was uh, Fury needed a publication to prove that it's, I don't know, like worthy, let's say. So it's always a good idea. So the thing is, like, it depends from project to project, right? So like, for example, if you contribute to NumPy, like NumPy is already quite famous.
Yeah.
So that in turn like makes you a really experienced programmer, let's say, because you contributed to NumPy. So people are like, okay, whoa, this guy contributed to NumPy, right? Similarly works. It also works for like the Linux kernel, for example. You can contribute to the Linux kernel, and once you do that, you're an actual developer whose code is being run by thousands of people, right? So I mean, my opinion would be to get as much as you can out of it. Like usually, again, it again depends on the project that you're working on. Sometimes it's just an application-based project. Like in case of Anita Borg, they have software projects which are related to like women empowerment. So you can't really have what do you call it, like research papers out of it, but it's mostly like application based. So it again completely depends on the project that you're working on. So Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would recommend to, like, if you have the opportunity to write research paper, go for it. I mean,
That's
that's a perfect thing to do.
okay. So moving to the next questions, like
Yeah.
the question is, what are your views on open source? Like there are many students here in first year and second year who are participating in GSOC, who are
Mhm.
aiming to participate in Hacktoberfest. So what is the need? How it gives an edge upon other students? And what are your suggestions in this in open
Okay,
source?
so right. Let me address the first question. That is, what kind of edge do you get, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you an analogy, right? Okay, so let's say you're looking for a plumber. Okay, a random plumber, you have some problem with your piping, and you need a plumber, right? Now there are three kinds of plumbers in front of you. There's there's a plumber who claims that he has a degree in plumbing, right?
Yeah.
There's and he has no other experience, let's say, per se. Then you have a second plumber who says, okay, I know plumbing, I have a degree in plumbing, and I have fixed plumbing of these places. Let's say maybe your neighbor's plumbing was fixed by him or her, or your someone you know, right? And then there's the third guy, and he claims that he fixed the plumbing of, I don't know, the Eiffel Tower, for example. So like it, automatically the third guy gets an edge because he has experience on a real world project which is used by multiple people.
Yeah.
So for example, yeah, right. So, like, I'll give you a technical example. Like, if you check the Linux kernel project, right? So if you go to kernel.org, you have the code base for the Linux kernel. And if you go there, and if you check the commit messages, you'll find that most of them are signed by people working in AMD and Intel or NVIDIA, like all the hardware companies, right? Now imagine your commit is also there along with them. And now if you apply to these companies, they already know that, okay, you're comfortable with the code base, you had previous changes in these, you made changes to it. So they already know that you're good enough. They don't have to go through the interview process again and again, right? They don't have to be very picky about the interview process. They know that, okay, you have the experience, you are good enough to actually make commits into that project. And that's what they do. Like, their employees do the same thing. So automatically it gives you an edge compared to anyone out there, pretty much, I would say,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay, Somda. So the next
And
question is,
regarding open source, I
no,
thought
no, you
there
continue.
were two questions.
No, 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 you
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the second question was, what are my thoughts on open source, right?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on open source?
In my opinion, in my opinion, I think open source is the best thing to happen in the technology domain, to be honest. Because in open source, you don't have to be a professor or a person with a PhD degree. You can be anyone with any name from anywhere, and you can contribute to any code base. And that code base will be used by millions of people. Like, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You can just show what it is, which is not true for other domains, for example. Like, no one will allow you to make a random building if you're a civil engineer, for example. Like you have to prove that, okay, you are a good civil engineer beforehand, then only you're allowed to build buildings. The same is not true for in case of IoT or computer science in general. And open source gives you that platform to actually prove what you're worth it.
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter which college you're from, which domain you're from, or whoever you are. You just show your skills, basically.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why
That's fine.
we
Yeah,
have come up with this event diversion where we are promoting
yeah,
open source and community building. There are many projects to contribute with. So that's the main principle that
right.
so
Yeah, it's a very good initiative.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Somda. So the next
Yeah.
question is, how did you crack CERN and what was the selection process for getting
Okay.
into CERN?
Okay. So, like different uh, research institutes, not like research organizations, each one of them have a hierarchy, right? So you have a main
Hmm.
department, then a group,
Hmm.
and then section.
Yeah.
Am I audible, though? I think okay. So basically,
Yeah,
based on which section is
Yes.
actually your voice is breaking.
Breaking a
Yeah,
bit.
your voice is a little bit breaking.
Yeah, I noticed that actually. Hmm. Is it
Okay.
better now?
Yeah, it is better right
Yeah.
now. It is
Is
better.
it better?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
So what was I saying? How did I get a crack sound, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so basically, yeah. So yeah, depending on which section is hiring, they have different requirements, right? Now, I don't know if you've noticed this before, but usually companies or these organizations, they don't really reveal what kind of people they're looking for. The job descriptions are really vague. Like they're like, okay, we want a junior engineer or we need a software developer. They don't really specify that we need an engineer to do this particular job, right? And I'm audible. Just stop me in between if in case I
Yeah,
You
yeah,
are
okay,
sure.
audible.
You
okay,
are
yeah.
audible.
Yeah, you are
Okay,
audible.
okay, okay. Sorry, I thought it disconnected. Okay, so yeah, so yeah, so that's how. So yeah, that's the thing, and so it's not. So there's nothing to prepare. That's my point. Like you have to be good in general, okay? And as I mentioned before, at CERN, for example, the application process was, or the job description was also generic. So I put whatever experience I had in whatever domain I had, and I put it there. And I would recommend others to do as well. And no, of course, try to make sure that your resume is not more than one page. Okay, because okay, you might be very skillful engineer, but you're not. But you should also be skillful enough to put it in one page. Okay, so just skip the ones that seem less important to you, and put the ones which are more important on the first page or in one single page, right? And so yeah, so I applied for that program basically, and then I had I think two interviews. The first was an asynchronous interview, so it was basically where I had to talk in front of a camera. So there were like questions coming in front of my screen, and I had to answer them basically. And the second interview was the technical interview with my teammates right now, and they asked me questions on like Python and whether I have experience working with multi-threading in Python or not, and various multi-threading questions. Um, yeah, like very project specific questions, let's say. And yeah, like after a month, I think, or a couple of months, I got the confirmation email that okay, you got selected. So that's how it was.
Good.
And the thing was, I actually didn't know that CERN hired engineers. I thought it was only for like physicists.
Oh, okay.
Is it audible? No.
Yeah, you are audible. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I
Okay.
see like Chatak's video like tracking sound like I started panicking. So okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways,
So,
yeah. Look,
and what is like, share your experience of your first day of work at CERN.
okay. So my first day is like I went to my office. I was greeted by my supervisor, and actually when I joined Sun, it was during the COVID season, so there were many people in the office. So it was like me and my supervisor, and we had a quick tour of this of the experiments at CERN. So I went to visit CMS, I went to visit LHC, Atlas, and yeah, basically a quick tour, and then I was briefed on what I'll be working on, and yeah, pretty much it. I started working on yeah. The best part was getting to meet new people, from different countries because CERN is an international organization, so there are like people from all over the world, pretty much. And that was, I think, the best part of it because you get to learn a lot about different cultures, different people, and even their experiences, which overall at the end help you in the long run. So that was
Mm.
pretty impressive, I would say. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so moving to the next question, can you share your experience till date, like the projects you have been part of and the challenges you have faced during these projects? What are the challenges? How you tackle them? So can you share your views on that?
Hmm. So the project that I was working on was a diagnostic tool. So basically, you have these accelerators, right? which is like the bare minimum hardware. Now you want, no, okay, let me put it in a different way. You have these accelerators and the physicists want to operate on them, right? So they need a tool or a medium to do that. And I was working on writing softwares for that particular tool. So the tool that I was working on, with that, you can operate pretty much any hardware device. Okay, it was a bit lower level compared to the usual domains that we go for. So it was mostly, for me, it was mostly Python, but a bit of C++ was also involved because it was closer to the hardware. But yeah, that pretty much was what it was. And regarding my difficulties, I would say, like, okay, so I'm someone who likes to sleep in the morning, and we used to have like standard meetings every morning. So I had to wake up and go to like we had meetings every morning. So that was a bit annoying, let's say, because sometimes what happens is you have this one bug and you spend your entire day on it, and then in the next day you have to report what you worked on. And I'm like, yeah, I'm still stuck on that one issue that I was working on since last 2 days, and that's a bit embarrassing, let's say. But apart from that, it was a very fun experience, to be honest. Um, and the project that I was working on was started from scratch. So I did everything from scratch. So during that period, I had a lot of difficulties understanding how CERN works, let's say, because they have their own um, um, framework or their own domain, their own model, let's say. Like even the Python that they use is a bit modified version of Python, not exactly the Python that we know of. It's called ACPy. You can Google ACPy, ACCPy. It's their own version of Python. And and I also had trouble understanding how they use like accelerators as computers, basically. Like there are multiple smaller computers connected to each accelerator, which are reading values to and from them, from those registers, let's say. So understanding the data models, like you have accelerators, then you have timing domains, and basically all those jargons that is very specific to CERN. I had a bit of trouble understanding them first. And also another issue is all the naming nomenclature is done by physicists beforehand. So as a computer engineer, it doesn't make sense at all. Like the devices which are close to the hardware are called front-end computers, which makes no sense because front-end is meant to be, which is closer to the user, not to the hardware. But yeah, like apart from these uh, small issues, it was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, you have been a great
Okay.
time there.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving to the next question. So
I see chat stuck again. I don't know.
am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay. So am I
And now I
audible?
see a black screen. Interesting.
Okay,
Yeah.
there were some network issues from your end, I think. Now is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Now I
so
can hear you properly. Yeah.
now moving to the next question. So how much it is necessary to have a good internship? Like what are the suggestions by you to crack a good internship? Did you hear the question?
I guess he's having some network issue.
You got muted.
Yeah, I think he got disconnected. Wait,
Yeah.
I will just add him. Yep, he's here.
Hmm.
So, yep, is everything fine in your side,
Hello.
Soham?
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah.
Cool.
I think I
Okay,
had some
so
issues, but right now it should be fine.
yeah. So I'm
Hmm.
repeating the question.
Yeah. Sure.
Like
Yeah, please.
how much it is necessary to have a good internship, and what are your suggestions to crack a good internship?
Internship for what exactly? Like,
Internship for like if you are having some placement, then how a good internship in a good company affect our placements off campus or in campus?
yeah, I mean, internships are important because at the end of the day, you have to prove your skills, you know. So until unless you can prove it, like the easiest way to prove it is do an internship, let's say. But the thing is, some of the internships that I've seen listed in like Internshala or various websites are not really that good. And the thing is, they kind of exploit you more than making you learn new things, to be honest.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I would really um, I would really advise you to be careful which internships you do, because sometimes what happens is they'll make you do most of the work, and then at the end they won't even credit you for it, and you won't even get to learn much out of it anyways. So I would say you have to be very careful when which internship you choose. But in general, internships are very important because it proves that you have some sort of work experience, right? Because the thing is, when you make personal projects, right, most of the time you don't follow proper coding rules. Okay, like in Python, you have uh, Flake 8, for example. You have Flake 8, you have MyPy. There are certain standards that you have to follow. Then you have unit testing. You have to write unit tests and stuff like that, which you don't usually do when you're writing a personal project. Whereas if you're doing an internship or you're working with a team, these are the things that you have to maintain, let's say, which actually improves your skill as a developer. So internships always doing an internship is always a good thing. Again, the good ones, not the ones that exploit you. So
Yeah, so with
you have
that, like
to
there
be very careful
comes
with that.
another question like that people are
Yeah,
asking. You can see in the chat that how do we know which
yeah, I saw that.
internship to choose? So yeah, what are your views on that?
Right. So the first thing is you have to understand why are they looking for interns in the first place. Okay. Sometimes what happens is people don't have budget to pay for new employees, and what they do is they do, okay, I'll make you work for free, and what I'll give you in return is experience. Okay, I've seen a lot of startups do this. They're like, okay, come work at our startup and you'll get to learn a lot. And what they end up doing is they make them work for almost a lot, like more than what an intern, let's say. So so my like the main rule of thumb is if it's unpaid, it's most of the time it's exploitative. But again, it's not 100% true. Okay, because for example, in United Nations, in Geneva, for example, they don't pay their interns, but you do get to learn a lot because. So again, there are exceptions, but usually the rule of thumb is if they're unpaid, they're mostly fishy, let's say. Secondly, is try to do an internship which aligns with your degree or with whatever you want to do. Okay, so don't join an internship which is like, I know it's about marketing and you have a degree in computer science, for example. Like it makes no sense. Like you're doing something which is completely different of what you're studying. So let's say if you use that internship as an experience or as a point in your resume, it won't add any value because the internship that you did is completely different from what you are studying or what you are pursuing. But then again, it depends. If you're applying for a marketing job, in that case, that internship will be considered, but the degree that you have won't be because it's a computer science degree. Okay, and in this case, between internship and degree is given more priority. So if you have a degree in computer science, you will be considered for jobs that are meant for computer science, not for marketing or any other job. So always align your internships with whatever you're pursuing. Okay. Now
Right.
the like yeah, like for example, I know people who are doing ECE and they're applying for CS jobs. Yeah. So the problem with that is you're spending 4 years of your life doing something which won't be used up at the end. So it's kind of like you're wasting 4 years, which doesn't make sense to me, to be honest. Instead, you should okay. There are few situations where you can bridge the two together. Like there are some particular domains where, like for example, kernel development. In kernel development, you need computer science fundamentals and you need some hardware knowledge. So maybe focus on that if you're into computer science, let's say, or you like computer science but you chose EC, for example. You have to look for those like bridging domains that will help you out. Uh, that will basically make sense on your resume. That's the better
So
way to put it.
basically, you're trying to say that if someone is from EC, he should focus on getting
Yeah,
EC code jobs related to the job which is related to
yeah,
grad subject. Okay.
exactly. Because let's say you apply for a master's degree, let's say,
Hmm.
or you apply for a job, a proper job. Your degree is what they will look at. They won't look at what projects you built or what internships you did. They'll mainly look at, okay, this guy or this girl is a bachelor student, but in which domain? In EC job, not for a
Hmm.
CS job. I know there are chip companies who do the other way, like they hire everyone, like mechanical, CS, whatever, everyone into one particular job. But yeah, you know, like it's
If we want to give the degree more priority, then.
better to go for which degree you're pursuing.
Okay.
Yeah, because at least in Europe, for example, your degree is very important. Like whatever you're pursuing is very important.
Hmm.
So you have to be careful. Yeah.
So
Or you go
someone
for
in the
those bridge ones. I think that's the best one. Yeah.
bridge ones, okay. So someone in the
Yeah.
chat box said that you said quality over quantity, but you also said to try out everything. What if I
Yeah.
get interested in more than one domain and want to do all
Yeah.
of them?
You have 24 hours in your life. You can decide whatever you want to do. Okay. Sometimes what happens is you cannot give equal time or equal priority to each one of them.
Yeah.
You can go for the
Yeah.
bridge ones again. Like that's something you can always do. Like something which has a part of both. Let's say, like, for example, there are I don't know how to call it, but they basically have degree in both biology and computer science. So what they do is they do neural
Dual
imaging,
degrees.
right? So they apply not only no, like like for the project that I was working on for GSOC,
Hmm.
we had another contributor, and she basically makes 3D models of
Hmm.
protein structures. Okay,
Hmm.
so in order to do that, you need both, like job which involves both of them. I guess I think it's called biotechnology. I'm not sure exactly though,
Hmm.
but yeah, could be biostatistics as well. I don't exactly remember what she does, what she was doing, but yeah, these are some domains where you can actually combine multiple domains together. Let's say,
For example, in computer also
like
we
for
have one
example, I'll
domain
give you another example.
like
Um,
IoT.
I couldn't tell you.
Chetak, am I
I
audible?
Are
yeah,
you
I missed your last question. Please, can
Yeah,
you
I was saying that,
repeat?
for example, in computer also we have this kind of some kind of bridge course that is IoT, where EC and a bit of computer science is mixed. So,
Yeah,
okay,
indeed.
all right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Right. So any more questions, guys? Like I'm asking to the chat box, like I'm just asking to the audience, like if you have any more questions you want to ask.
Yeah, anything related to GSOC or I don't know.
Yeah, anything you want to ask
Anything.
for GSOC, you want to ask for like what is CERN or anything like that.
Yeah.
And by the way, are you coming back to India, Somna?
Yes, I'm coming next month.
All right, all right.
Yeah, let's see.
We can have a meetup, right, in college sometime
Yeah,
this month.
sure, for sure. Yeah,
Yep. Okay. So we
it's last.
did get a question that best platform to code, like should we start on HackerRank or CodeChef or LeetCode?
Hmm. Okay. I don't want to get into that controversy, but honestly speaking, okay. So I prefer my time to be spent on something which has an impact. Okay. Again, it's completely my opinion. Please don't take it as a fact. Okay. So competitive coding, in my opinion, is something which you do on a website. You get all the test cases passed, and that's it. You're not helping the society in any way, or it's not adding any value to the world. Let's say for me, open source was very interesting because or appealing because when I made a change to a particular project, that project is used by multiple and thousands of people. So my change is actually making an impact to those many people. So that itself is a satisfaction that I crave, let's say. So for me, like I don't know, but again, do whatever you like to do. Okay, that's the whole point. Like if you like competitive coding, do it. Because the thing is, when you do something that you love, you don't realize that you're working hard. Okay, it's like you're enjoying. and that's what will give you the edge over others, because you'll be an expert at something which you did because you like doing it, or because you had to work hard for it, right? So you'll be naturally good at it, basically. So that's
Right.
the thing. Yeah.
People are asking, please throw light on our first year's experience, your first year experiences.
Okay. First year experiences.
If you remember.
Yeah, I do. But first year I mostly spent okay. uh, I would say trying out different domains. I mean, I was also part of IDC back then.
You were
So I
also
was,
part of DSC
yeah,
student
DSC, DSC,
3DSC.
DDS, yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly speaking, I didn't really contribute much. It was mostly done by others, to be honest. I was just there, but most of the work was done by others, to be honest. So yeah, it doesn't really count. But yeah, so basically, I was again, as I mentioned, I was like exploring different domains, and and the NPTEL thing that I mentioned. So I was already quite decent in Python, and I also took that course. So I was by default able to get a very good score. Like I was in the top 1% of whatever people were giving the exam. Again, NPTEL courses, I have a different uh, opinion about it, but anyways, and that's how I got my internship, because they invite people who are in the top 1% or top 2% for their internship. So that's what I did, and it was mostly like interacting with people, like meeting new people, because like you're put into a completely different environment. So it was mostly like interacting with people and trying to know more people, let's say.
So going to CERN made you know about more people, and that was the best part of your life, maybe.
Yeah, indeed, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, okay, life is not about work. You
Yeah.
work to live, you don't live to work. So
Mhm.
you have to, yeah.
There's this another question in the chat
Yeah.
box. Did you complete the whole DSA and web development before applying for GSOC in second year?
Whole web development, what do you mean by that?
Whole DSA and web development before applying for GSOC in second year.
I have zero experience in web development. I think I used HTML, CSS, and no JavaScript, and I just made a simple page, and I was like, maybe this is not for me. That's all I went to look at. Like it was a pretty decent page. Like you could do a lot of stuff, but it was very basic, like bare bones basic. So I was like, okay, this is not my domain. So I'll just switch to something else. Then I switched to, I guess, machine learning, if I'm not wrong. And when I applied for GSOC, I was into machine learning. Yeah, I was into machine learning. I just started learning, actually. I did the Andrew NG course. It's a very nice course, by the way. Go for it if you're planning to learn machine learning. Like most
The
often
Coursera
knowledge is
one.
from the, yeah, the Coursera one. It's the best in my opinion. Just go for it. And yeah, like initially, honestly speaking, like for GSOC, I had no idea like you have to like follow proper design patterns in Python. I had no idea that these things exist in Python, or you had to write unit tests for a software engineering project. I had zero idea. And doing the after GSOC, I was able to understand, okay, these are the things that you should know as a software developer. So it was pretty new for me. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
Like what are your goals after Sun? Like, have you decided to switch after 2-3 years, or what are your goals? Can you share?
My goals, uh, I'm not really sure, to be honest, because I go with the flow, to be honest. I don't really plan much. So right now, I don't know. I don't really have anything planned as of now. But
Yeah, yeah.
जो होगा देखा जाएगा. I don't know.
So,
Yeah,
that's the cool thing about you.
yeah.
So
Because when you have like goals, for example, there will be points demotivating for you,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, your voice
Yeah,
is breaking.
is a bit
Okay,
lagging.
Mm.
chat. Sorry, what I will pronounce it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hello.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Now it
Yeah,
is.
I'm audible now.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
perfectly.
Okay. Yeah. So I was saying that if you have like goals, like there would be situations where you won't be able to achieve that goal, and that
yeah.
will demotivate you for your further goals. Let's say.
Mm.
So
That's
it's
right.
always good to have like a short-term goal rather than a long-term goal. So
Yeah,
you
move with the
those
flow.
short-term goals
With the
add up.
flow,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Those short-term goals add up to have something big. Let's say. Like like during first I didn't know that I will be at CERN, for example. I just wanted to, build a drone for nowhere. Then I wanted to get that internship. Then I wanted to do GSOC. Then I wanted to do CERN. I didn't plan to go to CERN since my first year. I went like step by step. Let's say.
Like if you think that,
So
yeah, I
yeah,
have to do this goal, I have to do that goal, then that goal never gets
yeah,
achieved. You just go
yeah,
with
and
the flow.
and it also stresses you out. Like okay, oh, I have to
I
do
have
that.
so
I have
much
to do
work
this.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Did you prefer? Sorry, I didn't.
There's this question from Prakash that,
Yeah,
Dada, as you said that web dev was not your domain, same goes for me, and you are
okay.
known now in Geneva. So, how is the change in types of question from interviewers in other countries and here in India?
Okay. In India, honestly, I have only worked at IIT Ropar. The other times I've interviewed, they were all by other like non-Indians. But honestly speaking, uh, I honestly have zero interview experience in India. Uh, yeah, I can't really remember if I've interviewed anyone. Yeah, well, except like, but again, the internship that I did was quite basic. So I don't think that counts, to be honest. Like that interview experience counts.
Maybe he meant that
So
what is the level of questions? Like in foreign countries, what is the level of questions among the interviewers, and what is the level of question in India among the interviewers? If you have experience, you can see.
I would say it's mostly application based. Like they'll ask you if you know how to do this particular thing. Okay. It's, so like for one thing that you have to understand, they already know you're technically strong because they asked you for an interview. Okay. First you apply for the job. They go through your resume and they already know that okay, you are technically strong for this particular role. They already know that. They just want to see how you behave, how you interact with humans, let's say, whether you can handle a particular situation. That's what they usually look for in an interview. Questions are fine, okay, that's fine. That's not the main point of an interview. The main point of an interview is to see what kind of a person you are. That's my opinion, to be honest. Because I've noticed that like if the interview goes good, you're selected most of the time because they know that you are technically sound because they already saw your resume.
Yeah. So
Mm.
moving to the
So
next question, it is from Dina. So did you prefer the paid courses or it is reliable to learn through
yeah,
YouTube and other free documents? Like, can you recommend some courses or some resources to learn Python or machine learning? Yeah, that's the question.
machine learning, go for Android Ng's course. Like
Android engine, yeah.
no, yeah, no second thoughts. Like not the deep learning one, the machine learning one, like the very old one. The deep
Machine
learning one is also quite good, but the thing is, uh, when he started making deep learning ones, he he had Coursera. He was like Coursera was already booming, so you can actually feel I don't know, the Bollywood in his deep learning courses. I don't know how to explain it in a different word. Like it felt like he's trying to like get like
camp,
Like
yeah.
he
make it
has
make it more
built
flashy.
his
Let's say.
own brand, so now like
Yeah, exactly,
he just got
exactly.
carried away. So it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. But they're good courses. I've done those as well. They're quite good. Uh, I mean, if you have time, go for it. But the most important one is the machine learning one. Like I learned a lot, and I still have those learnings from there. and he explains it in a really simple and easy way. So it's really nice. So go
Yeah.
for it. Definitely go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so moving to the next question from Prajwal. Can
Yeah.
you share your experiences and experience as a research intern in IIT Ropar? And I have a follow-up question: how you get that internship?
I'll start with the second one. I got that internship from NPTL. So if you don't know, if when you write an exam for NPTL, you do a course first, then you write an exam, right? And if
Yeah,
you are in like top 1% or top 2%, you have an opportunity to work under that professor. So each course is actually owned by a professor. Okay. So when
yeah,
you get a good rank in that particular exam, you can apply for internship under that professor. So I think I wrote an exam for the joy of computing in Python. That I think that was the name of the course, and I went to IIT Ropar for my research internship. Okay, and okay, coming to the first part, so
I
I
think
time
you have disconnected.
understanding the
Yeah.
different.
The voice got broke.
Hello.
Yeah, now it is audible.
Now it is okay.
Hi.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, during my rope, honestly, I think I did most of the Python implementation. So basically, I was okay. I don't know if you've done that course before, but there are like you have Dr. Sudarshan Iyengar as the main faculty teacher of that course, and then you have other PhD scholars with him. So, like the Joy of Computing course is actually quite these PhD scholars, like acting out a really fun learning session. It's a really good course, and so basically I had to choose. So basically, those PhD scholars they had a particular project, and I had to choose which project I wanted to go for. And I chose the one by Neeru ma'am. She was a PhD scholar uh, uh, during that time, and I worked for that particular project. And my experience was actually quite good, I would say. But I think I spent most of the time implementing whatever her project was. So back then I had no idea what machine learning was. Okay, honestly, like that's when I actually wanted to learn how it works because the project that I was working on it was related to abstractive summarization, where you use deep learning to summarize a particular passage abstractively. So all the words in that summary is different from the words in the actual passage. So you just don't pull up lines from that passage. You create
Yeah.
your own lines, let's say,
Hmm.
right? So I was really interested. Like, how can you do that thing? Like is it like I mean, on paper it sounds magic. Like you create new words which summarizes a passage that you read before.
Abstractive
Like
summary.
Hmm.
Right.
yeah, abstractive summarization, right?
Yeah.
Like because when you do normal programming during using that paradigm, it's impossible to achieve something like this. So I was really interested to know like how does this work, like, and that's when my machine learning journey began, and that's where I got the passion for it, let's say, or the interest for it. And apart from that, I also had the opportunity to take IIT classes. To be honest, like they had classes in IIT, like the class would feel as well. So
I
that was
guess
quite
the voice is
fun, I
breaking a bit.
would say. Like it was. I mean,
Yeah.
Hmm.
hello. Did I end? I don't remember.
No, it's okay. You're audible now.
Classes you were telling about the classes in IT.
Classes, yeah. So yeah, I had the opportunity to take classes. So basically, that faculty sir, he was taking classes for those PhD scholars, right? And I had the opportunity to join that class as well. And as I had no knowledge about machine learning, the whole class was very boring. Like I was like, what's going on? He was writing equations on the board, and I was like, so crazy. So yeah,
Okay. So
but
moving to the
that was
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
continue.
Yeah.
Continue.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Sorry for the interference. Okay, moving to the next, we are having Prakash again. So he is asking that as you have worked for Python or in GSOC, was there anything else required for you prepared like ML domain or any other tech skill or just hardcore Python before you got selected in GSOC?
Most important thing would be to know how object-oriented programming works.
Hmm.
Like I
Oh,
think object-oriented programming is very important because every project out there implements it, except for the ones that are written in C because C doesn't have that. But but if you look at the Linux kernel project, it's actually designed in such a way that it acts as an object. So it basically comes to the question. My main point was Python, like core Python and object-oriented design or object-oriented programming concepts, basically. Because the domain that I was working on or the project that I was in, it was regarding 3D visualization. So things like OpenGL or VTK, it was related to that domain. So it had nothing to do with machine learning, let's say. And I had no prior experience in that domain, let's say. So yeah, that's how it was.
okay. Okay, Shomda,
So,
there's this one last question. What are some pieces of advice you would like to give to your juniors?
yeah.
Mm, do what you like to do or do what you love to do. Don't do something because someone else is doing it and they're um, like being successful in it, let's say. Because the things that work for that person might not work for you, and then you might consider yourself a failure because of that. So don't do that. That will never. That's never a good option, let's say. Secondly, uh, there will be a lot of people giving you advices. Okay, people, uh, trying to do this, trying to do that, etc. Like they'll be say, oh, do this framework or do this programming language or whatever. Okay, like always take and these could be said by like prominent people, like prominent people in your life. I don't know, your seniors or even me. So I'm not saying I'm prominent, but okay. The thing is, you always take them with a pinch of salt because they are always explaining the things that they experience. So that experience may not be true for you. So you always have to like don't blindly follow them. Let's say always use your own brain. Use Google. Okay, Google is the most important tool you have. Use it to research. Know that okay, the things that I'm saying is actually true or not, or whether it will actually help me or not. So do that research part on your own. Don't be a blind follower. Let's say that's like the two advices that I would just like to give.
All right.
And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much so.
that's
And also another thing, one more thing. If you're in first year, people will try to exploit your skills, including everyone in the college. Okay, there's like when I say everyone, I mean everyone. Okay, so to be try to be like mentally prepared for that. Try to learn to say no. Okay, don't be say okay, this person asked me to do this, so I have to do it. That's not true. Learn to say to learn to say no. That is very important. Okay, saying no is a very important skill, or how to say no. Let's say so you have to be good at that as well. So yeah, that's my final one. Yeah.
yeah, that's the very good answer and inspiring also for us.
Are there anybody wants to ask any more questions? Please
Yeah,
drop it
guys,
in
like
the
if you
chat
have any,
box.
you guys want to ask anything, you can just
Any
drop it.
question you can ask
Yeah.
the chat box.
And we will have a group pick at the end. So I would request everyone to start turning on their videos, like, like prepare your background or stuff. So please do it. Yeah, it will be good for you only. Like, and you can, post it in LinkedIn or Twitter, tag everyone. So, yeah, everyone, please. Yeah, just a second. So I'll be making the gallery view. I will be also turning on my video as well. So, yeah. Yeah. Everyone, please. I just request everyone to just turn on your videos. Just don't unmute yourself. Stay muted.
I think you pressed the wrong button by mistake.
Yeah, pretty sure it might be. Okay. So yeah. So at first we'll be taking a normal pick, like without any sign or without anything, and the second one will be where will be you can make any kind of signs or something like that. So yeah. All right. So first one, just a smile. All right. So next one, any kind of sign or any kind of signature move you have. So cool. Any dab? Anyone go up for dab?
I just did.
All right. Cool. 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 All right. Yeah, we have everything. So yeah, you guys can take your own screenshot, and I will be also posting it. I will be sharing
Yeah.
it through Harsh or anyone, or through your CR, of course. So yeah. So that was a really great time we had, and I think we can give
Yeah,
a permission to unmute. Like if you guys want to ask, or you guys want to directly interact with Soham Bhaiya, so you can right now. So can you do that? I hope you have the permission.
sorry.
Yes, hold
Do
on,
what?
hold on.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so anyone want to ask anything, like just consider this the official session has been over, so I will be just stopping the recording. So now